My brother humiliated my adopted children at his birthday party, calling them parasites and saying, adopted kids do not count. So I handed him his DNA test results in front of everyone, revealing he was adopted too. Then I canceled the $10,000 party I paid for and watched his entire world collapse in front of his friends and coworkers. My name is Daniel, and I am 37 years old. This is the story of how my world, my family, and especially my brother, Marcus, changed forever in a single day. But to understand what happened, I need to take you back to where this all began. A few years ago, my wife Jennifer and I discovered we could not have biological children. It was a devastating blow that shattered our dreams of filling our house with laughter and the sound of little feet running down hallways. After months of medical consultations, failed treatments, and countless tears, the doctors delivered the final verdict. Jennifer could not conceive. We sat on the couch of our small house, holding each other and crying together. But we also made a decision that night. If we could not have biological children, we would build our family another way. That decision led us to adoption, and it changed our lives forever. We adopted Emma and Noah when they were just 2 and 3 years old. They were siblings who had been through the foster system after a tragic story that I will not share here because it is not mine to tell. From the moment I saw them at the adoption agency, I knew they were meant to be our children. Emma, with her big curious eyes and shy smile, and Noah, with his boundless energy and endless questions, filled our home with life in ways we never imagined possible. Jennifer and I loved them as if they had come from us, because in our hearts, they truly were ours. But not everyone in my family saw it that way. My younger brother, Marcus, who is 5 years younger than me, has always had a complicated personality. Ever since we were kids, he craved being the center of attention. Our parents, Robert and Margaret, spoiled him relentlessly, perhaps because he was the youngest, or perhaps because of something I never quite understood back then. Marcus grew up selfish, always looking for ways to take advantage of situations, with a sharp tongue he used without thinking about the damage it caused. When Jennifer and I introduced Emma and Noah to the family, everyone welcomed them warmly, except Marcus. The first time Marcus met my children, he barely acknowledged their existence. He looked them up and down as if they were strange creatures, then pulled me aside privately. "It is weird, Daniel," he said, with that smirk I'd grown to hate. "Adopting kids who are not your blood. I do not know how you can love them as if they were your own. It feels fake to me." His words hurt, but I let it slide. I thought that with time he would change his mind and see how incredible Emma and Noah were. But that never happened. Over the years, whenever Marcus visited our house or we met at family gatherings, he would drop cruel comments like poison into conversations. "Those kids do not look like you, Daniel. Does not it bother you that they will never really be yours?" he would say with a chuckle, as if it were some kind of joke. When Emma and Noah tried to play with him or show him their drawings, he would push them away with dismissive comments. "Stop bothering me. I am not your real uncle. Go find someone who actually cares." I always confronted him, told him to stop, that they were my children, and I would not tolerate him treating them like that. But Marcus would just shrug and say he was telling the truth, that they were not really family. My parents, Robert and Margaret, sometimes tried to mediate, but they were never firm enough with him. They always said the same thing: that is just Marcus. Do not take it personally. But for me, every comment was like a dagger to the heart. Emma and Noah, being young, did not always understand the venom in Marcus' words, but over time, they began to notice. Emma started becoming quieter when Marcus was around. Noah would sometimes ask me, "Dad, why does Uncle Marcus not like us?" Every time I heard that question, I felt rage burning inside me, but also immense sadness. I tried to protect them, to tell them that Marcus was just bitter, that they were perfect exactly as they were. But the damage was being done, and I could see it in their eyes. Despite everything, I tried to maintain a relationship with Marcus. He was my brother after all, and although I disapproved of his attitude, I wanted to believe that deep down he had some good in him. Besides, my parents always asked me to be patient with him, saying Marcus had been through a lot, though they never explained what they meant by that. So I kept inviting him to gatherings, helping him when he needed money, because that is what families do, right? Though sometimes I wondered if it was worth the pain he caused my children. 6 months ago, Marcus called me with unusual enthusiasm in his voice. He told me his birthday was approaching, and he wanted to celebrate it in a big way. He wanted to rent an elegant event hall with luxury catering, live music, and a guest list that included important people he had met at his new job as a commercial real estate broker. But, as always, there was a problem. He did not have the money. "Daniel, you have always been the responsible one, the one who has everything under control," he told me with that mix of flattery and manipulation he always used. "I need your help with this. I do not want my friends and colleagues to think I am broke. If you lend me the money for the party, say $10,000, I will pay you back little by little. I promise." It was not the first time Marcus had asked me for financial help. In recent years, I had helped him with rent, with bills, even with a down payment for a car he never finished paying off. But this time was different. It was not an emergency. It was a party to feed his ego. I wanted to say no, but something in me, perhaps the hope that for once Marcus would show some appreciation, made me give in. "All right, Marcus," I said, "but this is the last time I bail you out. I will organize and pay for the party, but I want you to invite the whole family, including Emma and Noah. And you better treat them well." Sure, he replied quickly. It will be a great night. You will see. Everyone is going to have fun. Organizing the party was not easy. Finding an elegant venue, hiring premium catering, a live jazz band, and everything Marcus wanted cost a fortune. Jennifer warned me not to trust him, that Marcus always found a way to disappoint us. But I insisted. I wanted my children to see that despite everything, we were a united family. I wanted Marcus for once to show a little gratitude. But I also had another plan in motion. A week before the party, I had decided to do something I had been considering for months. Since Marcus constantly berated my children for being adopted, I wanted to make sure he was actually a blood relative who had the right to make such comments. I secretly collected DNA samples from my parents and from Marcus' toothbrush and sent them to a private laboratory for analysis. The results arrived the day before the party, and what I discovered shocked me to my core. Marcus was not Robert and Margaret's biological son. He did not share DNA with them. He was adopted just like my children. The day of Marcus' birthday arrived, and everything seemed perfect. The venue was decorated with elegant lighting. The tables were covered with white tablecloths, and waiters served appetizers and champagne to the guests. Marcus was in his element, showing off to his friends and colleagues, all dressed as if they were attending a corporate gala. My parents, Robert and Margaret, sat at a table smiling proudly as they watched Marcus enjoy his moment. Jennifer, Emma, Noah, and I arrived a little later, carrying a gift for Marcus, an expensive bottle of whiskey I knew he liked. Emma and Noah were excited. They had spent the whole week talking about the party, about how they wanted to give their uncle a hug and wish him a happy birthday. Jennifer and I had prepared them, telling them to behave well, but we also reminded them that if Marcus said anything inappropriate, they should tell us immediately. The night was going smoothly. The jazz band played soft music, guests chatted and laughed, and Marcus seemed to be on top of the world. When it was time for birthday wishes, guests began approaching him one by one to congratulate him. I watched as Emma and Noah took their small gifts, a drawing Emma had made of our family and a handmade card Noah had written. They walked toward Marcus with nervous smiles, excited to finally have a positive moment with their uncle. "Happy birthday, Uncle Marcus," Emma said sweetly, holding out her drawing with pride. "Yeah, happy birthday," Noah added, offering his card with both hands. The venue was full of people, but in that moment, everything seemed to stop. Marcus looked at my children with an expression I will never forget, a mixture of contempt and disgust that made my blood run cold. He pushed their gifts away with a wave of his hand and said loudly, for everyone in the venue to hear, "Do not call me uncle. You do not belong to this family. Get these parasites out of here. Adopted kids do not count." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma dropped her drawing to the floor, and her eyes immediately filled with tears. Noah stood paralyzed, the card still in his hand, looking at Marcus as if he could not believe what he had just heard. Jennifer rushed to them, wrapping them in her arms as murmurs and gasps from the guests filled the hall. I felt a fury I had never experienced before, a white-hot rage that made my vision blur and my hands shake. I approached Marcus, who still had that arrogant smirk on his face, completely unaware of what was about to happen. "What is wrong with you, Marcus?" I confronted him, my voice barely controlled. "They are my children. They are. How dare you talk to them like that in front of everyone?" What? He replied with a shrug, still smiling. "I am just telling the truth. They are not your blood, Daniel. They are not family. Get over it." That is when I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope containing the DNA test results. The rage inside me had crystallized into something cold and calculated. "If adopted kids do not count," I said, my voice trembling with controlled fury, "then you should leave too." I placed the envelope in Marcus' hands, and the entire venue turned to watch. The conversation stopped, the jazz band finished their song, and even the waiters paused to see what was happening. "What is this, Daniel?" Marcus asked, holding the envelope with confusion and mockery, as if he thought this was some kind of elaborate joke. "One of your stupid pranks to make me look bad?" "Open it," I said firmly. "Read it, and then tell me who does not belong to this family." The murmurs among the guests grew louder. Some of Marcus' friends and colleagues, those important people he so desperately wanted to impress, looked at each other with obvious discomfort, but also curiosity. My parents, Robert and Margaret, were sitting at their table, and I noticed their faces had lost all color. Margaret had her hands clasped tightly on the tablecloth, and Robert stared at the floor as if he wanted to disappear. Marcus tore open the envelope abruptly, as if to show he did not care what was inside. He pulled out the laboratory report and began to read. At first he frowned, as if he did not understand what he was seeing. Then his eyes widened, and his face turned completely pale. "This cannot be true," he stammered, looking up at me with genuine shock. "It is a lie. You faked this, Daniel." "I did not fake anything," I replied, crossing my arms. "I took samples from Mom, Dad, and your toothbrush. The results do not lie, Marcus. You do not share DNA with them. You are adopted, just like my children, whom you just called parasites." A collective gasp swept through the room. Marcus' friends, who until that moment had been drinking and laughing as if they owned the world, were now silent. Some had their mouths hanging open. A woman who seemed to be one of Marcus' closest colleagues let out a nervous giggle, as if unsure how to react. Another man in an expensive suit muttered something to his companion, and they both started snickering. Marcus looked around the room, and I saw his face shift from disbelief to pure shame and humiliation. Mom, Dad, tell him this is a lie, Marcus shouted, turning to Robert and Margaret, his voice desperate like a child who has just realized the world is not as he thought it would. But my parents did not answer immediately. Margaret covered her mouth with her hand and Robert's eyes remained fixed on the floor. Their silence was more telling than any words could have been. Marcus, Margaret finally began, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. We never wanted you to find out this way. Find out what? Marcus interrupted, almost yelling. What are you saying? Tell me this is a joke? Robert finally looked up, his eyes filled with sadness and years of hidden pain. Son, you are our son. You always have been. But yes, you are adopted. We took you in when you were a baby. We never wanted to tell you because we did not want you to feel different. We love you just as much as Daniel. The entire venue seemed to hold its breath. Marcus stood motionless, the test results trembling in his hand. Then he let the paper fall to the floor and took a step back, as if wanting to flee from the truth. No, it cannot be, he murmured. But then something in his face changed. The shame turned into rage, and he pointed a finger at me, accusingly. This is your fault, Daniel. You planned this to humiliate me. You have always been jealous of me. Jealous? I repeated, incredulous. You just made my children cry, Marcus. You humiliated them in front of everyone, called them parasites just because they are adopted. And now it turns out you are just like them. How dare you talk about jealousy when all you have done is mistreat my family? The guests were no longer hiding their reactions. Some of Marcus' friends who minutes before had treated him like the life of the party were now openly mocking him. Wow, Marcus, what a plot twist, one of them said, raising his glass as if toasting the drama. Another woman whispered something in her friend's ear, and they both burst out laughing. Marcus looked around desperately, and I could see his world crumbling. The man who had organized this party to show off, to prove to everyone that he was someone important, was now the center of ridicule and mockery. But I was not finished. The anger I felt for my children, for Emma's tears, for the confusion in Noah's eyes, gave me the courage to do what came next. I approached one of the event coordinators who was standing near the entrance, and said loudly, for everyone to hear, "The party is over. Pack everything up. I paid for this, and I say it ends now." "No, Daniel, do not do that," Marcus screamed, running toward me, his voice desperate and pleading. "Please do not do this to me. It is my birthday. You cannot cancel the party." "Cannot I?" I replied, looking him straight in the eyes. "You said adopted kids do not count, Marcus. So by your own words, you do not count either. Get out." The coordinator nodded and began giving instructions to his team. The waiters started clearing the tables, the jazz band stopped playing and began packing their instruments, and the venue lights came on, completely destroying the party atmosphere. The guests, some confused, others clearly amused by the spectacle, began gathering their things. Some said goodbye to Marcus, with patronizing pats on the back, and sarcastic comments like "good luck, champ," or "what a memorable birthday this turned out to be." Marcus stood in the center of the venue, watching everything fall apart around him. He tried to talk to his friends and colleagues, to convince them to stay, but most were already heading for the exits. Some were even taking selfies and videos, clearly planning to share this drama on social media. My parents approached him, trying to console him, but Marcus pushed them away roughly. "Do not touch me," he yelled at them. "You lied to me, my whole life. Everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie." Then, he looked at me with pure hatred burning in his eyes. "This is not over, Daniel. You will pay for this. We will see about that," I replied calmly, taking Emma and Noah by the hand. Jennifer followed us, and together we left the venue, leaving Marcus alone in the middle of his ruined party. That night, when we got home, Emma and Noah did not talk much. They went to their rooms, and Jennifer and I stayed in the living room, trying to process what had happened. I felt torn between satisfaction at finally exposing Marcus' hypocrisy and guilt for how I had handled the situation. I had humiliated my brother in front of everyone, and although he deserved it, I knew that what happened that night would leave deep scars in our family. The next day I tried to talk to Emma and Noah. I explained that what Marcus had said was not true, that they were my children in every way that mattered, and that no one could take that away from them. Emma nodded but remained quiet, her gaze distant and hurt. Noah, who had always been more open with his emotions, hugged me tightly and said, "Dad, thank you for defending us." That hug gave me the strength to move forward, but it also broke my heart. My children should never have had to go through something like that. I decided I was not going to keep helping Marcus financially. For years I had paid his bills, bailed him out of trouble, given him money he never paid back. But after what he did, I could not continue enabling his behavior. The next day I canceled all the automatic transfers I had set up for his rent and expenses. I sent him a text message telling him that from now on, he would have to fend for himself. He did not reply. A month later I found out that Marcus had lost his apartment. He was furious with my parents for not telling him the truth about his adoption, so he refused to ask them for help. Instead, he ended up living in his car, then in homeless shelters around the city. Margaret called me crying, begging me to help him, but I stood firm. "Mom, Marcus crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. I am not going to keep supporting him after what he did to my children." The following months were difficult for everyone. Emma and Noah were still affected by Marcus' words. Emma started having nightmares and would wake up asking if we were really her parents. Noah became more reserved, especially when we talked about family gatherings or met other relatives. Jennifer and I took them to a child psychologist, someone who could help them process the pain and understand that they had done nothing wrong. Little by little, we started to see improvements. Emma began drawing again, creating beautiful pictures of our family. Noah started talking more, even laughing like before. But the damage was there, and I knew it would take time to heal completely. As for Marcus, I have not spoken to him since that night. My parents have tried several times to get us to reconcile, but I am not ready. Maybe someday we can have a conversation. But for now, my priority is my children. 6 months later, I learned that Marcus had hit rock bottom. He lost his job at the real estate company after the story of his public humiliation spread through social media. Videos of the party had gone viral, and his professional reputation was destroyed. He tried to rebuild his life in another city, but the shame and the truth about his adoption had broken something inside him. He struggled with depression and anger, bouncing between minimum wage jobs and temporary housing. Meanwhile, my family grew stronger. Emma and Noah slowly recovered from the trauma, supported by therapy and surrounded by love. They learned that family is not about blood or genetics, but about love, commitment, and choosing to be there for each other every single day. Jennifer and I made sure they understood that they were chosen, wanted, and loved beyond measure. We created new traditions, took family trips, and built memories that would last a lifetime. The irony was not lost on me. Marcus, who had spent years tormenting my children for being adopted, was himself adopted. His cruelty came from a place of ignorance and self-hatred that he had projected onto innocent children. A year later, I received a letter from Marcus. It was the first communication we had had since the party. In it, he apologized for what he had said to Emma and Noah. He admitted that learning about his own adoption had forced him to confront his prejudices and the pain he had caused. He wrote that he was in therapy, trying to understand why he had been so cruel, and that he hoped someday I might forgive him. He did not ask for money or help, just forgiveness. I showed the letter to Jennifer, Emma, and Noah. We talked about it as a family, and they helped me decide how to respond. In the end, I wrote back a simple message. Forgiveness is possible, but trust must be earned over time. Today, 2 years later, Marcus and I have a limited relationship. He has never met Emma and Noah again, and I am not sure he ever will. He is slowly rebuilding his life, working as a night security guard, and living in a small apartment across the state. My parents have rebuilt their relationship with him, but it will never be the same. The truth about his adoption and the way he learned it created wounds that may never fully heal. As for my family, we are stronger than ever. Emma is now 7 and loves to paint. Her latest artwork hangs proudly on our refrigerator. A picture of our family of 4, smiling under a rainbow. Noah is 8 and has become fascinated with astronomy. He wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. They both know their adoption story now, and they wear it like a badge of honor. They understand that being chosen by parents who desperately wanted them makes them special, not less than anyone else. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting your children? Share your stories in the comments below, because I know there are others who have faced impossible choices when family members cross the line. Sometimes the hardest lesson is learning that blood does not automatically make someone family, and that the people who truly love you would never make you choose between them and your children. Hit that like button if you believe that family is about love and respect, not just genetics. Subscribe for more stories about people who learned that their words and actions have consequences, no matter who they think they are. Remember, the family you choose can be stronger than the family you are born into. The moment I chose my children over my brother cruelty, I learned what real family truly means. And that lesson was worth every sacrifice I had to make.